today we're going to work on opening shoulders with a quick shoulder practice. Although if you have tight shoulders, it may not feel quick. We're gonna use 2 blocks and a strap. If you don't have blocks, you could probably get away with a blanket. And we're gonna start in the back bend over blocks. So you can have 1 block on the medium height, and that'll go under your upper back, and the second block will go on the higher height, and that goes under your head. And if you want to lower each block 1 notch, you could do that too. And if you don't have blocks, you could use a blanket or even a pillow and just roll it up to whatever height works for you and place them under the shoulder blades. And then you can take your arms down by your sides with the palms face up. And we're more concerned with what's happening in the shoulders and the upper body, but do make sure that you're not feeling any congestion in the low back. If you are, you might want to bend your legs and have your knees pointing up toward the ceiling. And then take your attention to the shoulder blades and see if you can wiggle them a little bit closer together underneath you. And if you have really tight shoulders in this direction, you may start to already feel a stretch across the pectorals. Right, so the arms here are moving in what we call extension, when the arms move back behind us. And some of us have tight shoulders in this direction. So just take a few moments here using your breath. With every exhale, let your shoulders get a little bit heavier. As you inhale, feel the lift of the heart, which is also going to help to open the pectoral muscles, those muscles in the front of the shoulder. And you could definitely stay here for several minutes if you wanted a more passive way to just work opening the shoulders in this direction. For now, if your legs were bent, we're going to straighten them back out. And make sure your kneecaps and toes are pointing up toward the ceiling. Yeah, and just like Kajsa did, lift the pelvis and point the tailbone toward the heel, so you're creating that length through the low back. And then once you've done that, we're gonna take the fingertips and reach them up toward the ceiling. The palms will face each other. Draw the shoulders back down in socket. And now take your attention to your front ribs and try to pull them in a little bit. And then without losing that work through the rib cage, without shortening your low back at all, start to reach the fingertips back behind you. And so other people have tighter shoulders in this direction with the arms up overhead. So poses like handstand and upper bow are hard for you. The shoulders could be the reason why. And so we want to make sure that the arms are absolutely straight. So reach through your fingertips so you can feel your triceps working. And then keep the palms facing each other so you're not going to start to puff through the armpit. Notice if the front ribs are puffing. If the front ribs are puffing, it's an indication that the spine is taking over. So try to pull the front ribs in so that you can keep this stability, and that way you get the openness through your shoulder instead. We'll take 1 more inhale here, just trying to let gravity take hold of the arms, gently opening the shoulders. And then inhale, lift the arms back up, lower them down by your sides. And you can bend your legs, plant your feet, and however it's easiest for you, make your way off of your blocks. Okay, once you're up, we're going to come to seated, so you can keep your blocks and strap nearby, and you can decide if you want to sit cross-legged if that's comfortable for you, or you can sit in Virasana. So either way, you just want to find a comfortable seat where you're able to lift right up on top of the sit bone, so we're not hurting the low back as we try to open the shoulders. And then you can reach your arms forward just like you did on your back, palms face each other, roll the shoulders back, squeeze the triceps. And then again, pay attention to the front ribs. You can imagine dropping them down toward the frontal hip bones without overdoing that action. You don't want to collapse the chest. And then without losing that, start to lift the arms up by the ears. Okay, so when we have tight shoulders and we keep the arms shoulders distance, they'll be closer to the wall that's in front of you rather than back by your ears. Or you can have your hands further apart. We just want to make sure that the arms are straight. Okay, press down into whatever you are rooting down into, whatever is on the floor. Use that pressure down to reach up through the fingertips. And then check in again, make sure the front ribs aren't puffing, try to pull them back in. Also make sure you're not puffing through the armpit, try to spin the bicep to the wall behind you. Reach up through the fingertips 1 more time. And then exhale, lower the arms back down. Okay, so now we'll take the arms in the opposite direction. So if you have tight shoulders, the strap is going to be very helpful. So you can open the loop of the strap about shoulders distance, or even wider if you have super tight shoulders. And if you don't have a loop, you can just hang onto the strap instead. And so we're going to take our arms back behind us, and you can thread your hands through the loop of the strap. And then start with your arms bent so that it's easier to roll the shoulders back and keep the chest open. And then begin to extend the fingertips back behind you. So here, if you have tight shoulders and you don't use the strap, you'll either straighten into the arms and roll the shoulders forward, which we're not getting any opening, or we'll keep the chest open, but we won't be able to extend through the arms. So as soon as you separate your hands a bit, you'll be able to find this opening across the chest. And when our shoulders are tight in this direction, poses like shoulder stand or camel might be more challenging. So lengthen across the collarbones, squeeze the shoulder blades towards each other. Keep drawing the front ribs in. Use that as resistance to lift the arms a little bit higher. And then exhale. Lower the arms down. You can set the block or the strap off to the side. We're going to come back to this other arm position. So if you have a block, you can place it between your hands. And this is just going to give us a little bit more feedback. We won't be here too long. Peel the fingers away. I hate this. Press the mound of the index finger into the block. Arms are straight. And then inhale, lift the arms up. Keep pulling the front ribs in. So now that our hands are forced to be about shoulders distance, they're not going to come all the way up by the ears if your shoulders are tight. Press down through the feet, reach up through the fingertips. Take a nice long inhale. And then exhale, lower the arms back down. And then one more time, we'll interlace or use your strap. So threading the wrists in between the loop of the strap if you're using it. And then again, start with the arms a little bit bent so you can find this alignment, this opening across the chest, and then begin to extend your arms back and up. Okay, so another exit route here is to lean forward. So try to keep the crown of the head right on top of the pelvis. Roll the shoulders away from the wall that's in front of you. Lift the arms away from the back body, straightening into them without puffing the ribs. We'll take one more inhale. And then exhale, lower down. You can set the strap off to the side. From here, we'll come onto hands and knees. Adjust so the knees are under the hips, the wrists are under the shoulders. And we'll just take a couple cat-cows. So as you inhale, pull the heart forward, find that same opening across the chest without collapsing into your low back. And then exhale, reverse and round. And one more time. Inhale, pull the heart forward, press the shoulder blades into the heart. Exhale, reverse and round. And then come back to the neutral spine. So from here, we're going to take our right arm out to the side. And then you can thread it through the left arm and leg. And when we take our head to the floor, we want to try to keep it in the middle of the mat rather than drifting over with the right hand. So this can be kind of elusive. So you might just be feeling a stretch in the shoulder, in the right shoulder, or you may be feeling a stretch through the left side of the waist. You can stay here with the left hand, or you can wrap the arm back behind you. Flip the palm and then hook onto the hip or the inner thigh, or just let your hand drape by the low back. We want to make sure that we can lift the left shoulder up away from the ground. So can you show them what that looks like when you're not lifting the shoulder up? So keep your hand by your low back and then allow the shoulder to just, yes. So this is what we're trying to avoid. And now see if you can lift the left shoulder up. So you're getting that same stretch across the chest. And then you might be able to deepen it by pressing your left hip away from the left shoulder. And then carefully unwrap the arm, press into your hand, come back up to hands and knees. And then we'll take that onto the other side. So take the left arm out to the side, thread it in between the right arm and leg, lowering your head to the middle of your mat. And you can stay right here. If you're feeling a nice stretch here and you don't really need to add on, then maybe stay here. Otherwise, the right arm can lift up to the ceiling, flip the palm back behind you, and maybe the hand will hook by the hip or the inner thigh. If your shoulders are super tight, maybe your hand just comes to the low back, right? And then make sure that the right shoulder is rolling up away from the ground, right? So it's the same direction as you had when you were interlacing your hands behind your back, or when you started and you were just laying over the blocks. Press the right hip back. And then carefully unwrap the right arm, press into your hands, lift yourself up. And then we'll sit back on our heels, and we're gonna set up for dolphin. And I always recommend using the strap in dolphin, especially if you have tighter shoulders. The problem is people with tight shoulders do not wanna use the strap. So the loop of the strap is shoulders distance, and then you take it just above your elbows. So the tighter your shoulders are, the more they're going to want to swing out wider than shoulders distance. And when we're weight bearing, we don't want to have the elbows wider than the shoulders because that can be injurious to the rotator cuff. Right, and then we'll interlace the hands. Take the forearms to the front edge of your mat, lowering the elbows down. And then when you're ready, tuck the toes under, press your hips back and up. Okay, so we're trying to find a diagonal line from the elbows up to the sit bones. If you have tight hamstrings, bend your knees as much as you need to, or just step your feet back a little bit. And then you can imagine pressing your chest toward your thighs, right, which is not a cue I would give to someone with really floppy open shoulders. But for if you have tight shoulders, it's a useful cue to help open the angle of the upper arm and the torso. Take 3 more rounds of breath here. And a lot of reasons, one reason that people with tight shoulders, or anybody doesn't like to use the strap, is the forehead and the strap are touching, but we just have to ignore that so we get the benefit of the elbows pinning in. Okay, now lower your knees to the floor, and then keep your hips high, but walk your arms forward, and you can do this with the hands together or separated. And now just let the chest melt down toward the floor. Okay, so we can tell that Kajsa's shoulders are tight here, because her chest is not touching the ground, right? Someone who has really open shoulders, they're just gonna collapse through them and melt down literally onto the floor. And what's nice about this one is that, again, gravity can work with us, so we're not using muscular effort to get the arms up overhead. So the muscles might be able to soften and then open a little more. And then press into your elbows, come back up onto hands and knees. We're going to come back to seated again, so you can decide if you want to sit cross-legged or back in hero's pose. And I'm assuming you have tight shoulders if you're doing this video, so have a strap over the right shoulder. We're going to finish with Gomukhasana, which opens the shoulders in both directions. So we'll take the the left arm out to the side, dial your thumb down, take your hand behind your back, and then you can use your right hand to help the left shoulder roll back. So it's the same work you were doing with the hands interlaced or in that half bind. And then you might be able to use your right hand to help the left elbow in a little bit so your hand is crawling up toward the neck. And then again, just make sure the left shoulder didn't roll in. You take the right arm up to the side, flip the palm up toward the ceiling, reach up through the right fingertips, bend your arm, and then either hang on to the hand if you can grab it, or most likely the strap. Okay, so that bottom arm is the same arm that we need for shoulder stand or camel, and the top arm is the same arm that we would use for handstand or upper bow or anything with arms up overhead. So you're trying to roll the left shoulder back, reach up through the right elbow, and maybe while you're here, try to notice whether the top arm or the bottom arm feels more challenging, or maybe they're equally challenged. Take another inhale, and then exhale, release. Roll the shoulders out for a second, let that go, and then you can move the strap to the left arm. Yeah, switch the cross of the legs if you were sitting cross-legged. Okay, and then we'll take the right arm out to the side. The thumb can dial down. Take your hand behind your back. Use your left hand to help the right elbow in if you can find it, and then teach the right shoulder to roll back and stay open. You flip the left palm up toward the ceiling, reach up through the left fingertips, spin the bicep back, bend the arm, and then come into Gomukhasana. And again, try to notice which arm feels more challenging. Reach up through the left elbow, roll the right shoulder back, and take a few rounds of breath here. Carefully let that go. Again, roll the shoulders out. And hopefully the shoulders are feeling a little bit more open. So, namaste. Thanks, Kajsa. Thanks.